Before we begin, I'd like to apologize if this video seems low quality. I have no microphone, I am just talking directly into the camera. The camera itself is on the laptop. A lot of the hazy staticness I'm seeing, I have no control over. Um, and a lot of what I'm going to be talking about will be off the top of my head. There's been no writing, there's been no preparation for this, there's been no real preparation at all for this. This is just off the top of my head, from the soul onto the camera, because I wanted this to be a raw experience of raw emotion just coming outwards and projecting itself. Uh, so at times it's going to be a little difficult to get my thoughts out there right at the moment, and I'm hoping that this video can help a few people. This video deals with a rather odd subject matter. I can guarantee you right now that about 3/4 of you watching this will probably not find it relatable. This video goes out to those who have, and to anyone who have ever felt somewhat discouraged and bad about themselves for not being on the same level as their peers when it comes to certain activities or interests, hobbies, careers, anything of the sort like that. And anything ranging from the arts to professions like being a lawyer to sports. This video is my way of trying to help those who have ever felt bad about themselves for stuff like that, and I hope that this video will help you uh, feel better about yourself. And I've always had an interest in longevity, the long lives, long lifespans, long careers and professions. But I tend to wonder, going on these social network websites where they do kind of just show off the length and the age and the distance of certain videos, content, posts, and I wonder, 13 years ago, even if I wasn't really able to get those accounts, would I have found it easy to set these things up? That's what I tend to fixate on, and I want to make this video to help people who feel the same way, that if you were, say, an adolescent 13 years ago, 15 years, you wouldn't have been able to have gotten an account because, there are technically laws and restrictions. It's never stopped people anyways, but it's like there are things that keep you from signing in and starting a profile. So it's not like, an adolescent really does have access to these accounts, and it's not really uh, something that a child can easily understand at an early age. But you wonder, but it's the fact that I wonder, especially, could it have been, easier? I should state that people who tend to feel like this, they never feel threatened by peers, but they look at the difference of peers or people maybe just slightly older or slightly younger who might be doing better in an interest, say a craft, say drawing, or perhaps painting, or perhaps uh, video production, and they tend to think, gosh, I could have been better by now had I started earlier or had I continued. And people don't feel threatened, they just tend to look down on themselves for that. And while it's nothing too depressing, it can become quite a habit with like anything that stretches over time, and it becomes a bit of a bad habit. And while nothing really psychological comes from this, I still wanted to address this and get that message out there of you're still an amazing person at the end of the day, and you gotta clear that from your mind, and you've got to take life on, head on, headstrong, hopeful, and say yes to all kinds of challenges and opportunities that come your way, because there's still so much to experience, so much to see, and after all, life is too short to be obsessed with these little habits. Other times I tend to think about the longevity of certain things when it comes to seeing old YouTube videos or maybe older social network accounts that indicate that they've been around for over 10 years or 11 years or even up to 13 years. And it gets me thinking, 13 years ago, I was, an adolescent. 13 years ago, I was about 6 years old. 10 years ago, I was about 9 years old. And, I didn't understand much about computers and accounts. I mean, granted, I consider myself part of the first generation that really grew up without not having a computer. Since, I have early memories dating back as early as 2002, having a computer in the house and playing with MS Paint and Pinball and some old PC games, some of which I still have to this day, actually. And compared to most people older than me, I've had more experience with the computer, and I think I have a better understanding of how computers work more than most people older than me. Uh, but it got me thinking about the more complex nature of the construction of websites or accounts, thinking, I mean, 9 years, 10, 12, 13 years ago, making an account was such a complicated idea to me. I wouldn't know where to start. I wouldn't know how to set up an email. I wouldn't know how to get an email. I wouldn't know how to, save a password. I wouldn't know if I should let a computer save my password. I wouldn't know how to upload and add the tags and add a description. I wouldn't think of a description, to be quite honest. When it came to the website YouTube, I've been a part of it since it was 2 months old. If you look even through the internetarchives.org, you can find some old videos of mine from 2005, and some my brothers did in '05. We had a friend who knew this stuff at an early age and found the website through word of ear, even though it was only 2 months old. And so I like to think that I helped pioneer what's now one of the biggest websites in the world. Um, but I never really did any of the uploading or any of the account management. That was them. I just did videos, and it wouldn't be until 2011 that I actually really started doing more of the complicated stuff than just simply making the videos or help make the videos. I'd also be doing more editing by 2011 and more account design and account signups and getting email accounts and doing all that by 2011. So despite being considerably a pioneer to the whole video making phenomenon, I really was doing that out of sheer coincidence because I knew people who tagged me along. And I pondered and I questioned, how difficult would it have been 10 years ago to make an account? Would it have been as more difficult now or not? I mean, I tend to think no. I don't think websites would make the registration of their accounts any more complicated than they are now. I think it's always kind of been to the same level of quality. But it's something I thought about from time to time, just present me with this challenge of asking me to make an account 13 years ago, being still such an adolescent, and I'd wonder, could I really do it? How complicated would it be? That's something that always kind of throws me off. But then I gotta remember, to the people that did make those accounts 13 years ago, they are probably between 10, 15, 20, 25, maybe almost 30 years older than me. And 10 years ago, they were still adults. 10 years ago, they were young adults, or they were still adults or established adults. So they easily had an understanding of how to, read through all the information and make the accounts and sign this stuff up and get through all this important, works and documentation. Me, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, adolescent, barely knew much about the real world, nowhere near established. So when you gotta remember, if that ever bothered you, knowing that there were people handling these things earlier than you, decades earlier than you gotta remember that they were probably already adults and that they were already establishing these things. Uh, I don't know why I found that so such a curiosity. Man, how did he go through the process 13 years ago when he launched his, I don't know, account, YouTube account, Facebook account, what other websites are there, like DeviantArt, MySpace, uh, Stuff like that. I question, how did that go? How did that work out? Was it any more difficult? What was the uploading process? Uh, because that's such a privacy thing, you wonder, has uploading become easier, or was it easier back then? Has it become more complicated now? Stuff like that is what I tend to question, and I think at the end of the day, you got to remind yourself, you've done incredible things in your time. You've done things for a long time. You've had a longevity of things. You have stories to tell. You have experiences. That's the stuff you should really be focused on. The stuff you've done, the stuff you've have done for a long period, the stuff you have a lot of knowledge of, the stuff that you're really good at, the stuff that you work on, that you are always improving on and always making the most of, and stuff that brings joy into your life. These little niches of feeling like, what could have that been like? What if I was in that guy's shoes? How could have that turned out? These things, some few people, and I stated earlier that this isn't to the majority audience of people. Some people do feel like that. They feel like they question that, and then they kind of feel weird about themselves. They feel odd. They feel challenged. They feel doubtful about themselves. They shouldn't be. There's nothing. There's no harm. There's no problems with accepting how these things have gone, and you should just be proud of the distance that you've made in creating these experiences for yourself and making things, in your world, in your control. You have your accounts, you have your actions, you have your interests. You've done a lot of things that make you who you are. And, there are going to be people years from now who's going to look back on that and they're going to admire, the distance and the effort you put in. When these things, if these, say if your account was archived, they'll look back and they'll question, they'll wonder, what could the process been? This guy knows. And you could have been that person in that position looking at somebody before you who said the same thing. And that's what blows my mind. It's just, in time, everything works out. Let me give you an example. I was at a charity event a couple years ago. I was 17 at the time. I was helping operating it. I was helping set up the booth, set up the event, and they had an artist there doing caricatures. The artist was taking time out of his busy schedule. He was doing this for free, and he was able to do these amazing magazine-like caricatures in under 5 minutes. Not colored, but the detail was immediate. It was instant. It was quick. Basically a work day for him doing that in full color would have taken him no more than 50 minutes out of his day. And I thought this person was an amazing artist doing that. He was in galleries and he was really getting out there in the world. He was young. I knew he was, but I was shocked to find out that he was 2 years younger than me. And I had just recently gotten back into art as a hobby. I was only like 3 years in, but I wasn't an everyday like new new piece to show, not like a new piece one day, a new piece next day, a new piece. No, I was like maybe lucky to get a new thing in once a week or even twice in a month. And for 3 years starting in, I was still struggling to really get a good understanding of art. But I loved it. I had always loved it. I enjoyed doing it. I've never seen it as a career, but I've always seen it as like a real fun pastime. And what blew my mind was when I was putting this together, the artist was only 16 and he was award winning. He was doing caricatures professionally. He was able to do all this amazing stuff. And basically, we had started drawing around the same time. We had both originally taken up the interest probably around the same time, both around adolescence in elementary school, 5 or 6 years old. And he was just so much better at it. He had spent so many more years and had so much more dedication to it. I stopped after 6 years old because in elementary school, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, a lot of times when you were drawing, you were doing drawing contests. And if you weren't really the fastest or you weren't really uh, the good with handling competitions, it was a struggle. You couldn't really draw. You couldn't really keep up. So it just became frustrating. And that's kind of why I put off drawing for so many years. I didn't take it up again I was 6 when I stopped it. I didn't take it up again until I was about 13, and that's because I was looking for something to do to occupy my time. I had in the past 4 years. I mean, I've improved tremendously. I've broken into all kinds of mediums and uh, all different kinds of subject matters, and I've been proud of my progress. But it's just amazing to think, haven't I? The fact that there's somebody who started at the same time as me or shortly after me, who's younger than me, has actually done a lot more in the field than I have, and you know, it's one of those things that make you think, had I not given up when I did, would have been better. Well, this is one of those. This is what the subject matter is about. This is one of those aspects of life where you live in the present but look towards the future. You don't fixate on the past and what could have been. You just gotta strive forward. You gotta just continue to improve yourself because you're only going to get better in the future. You're only going to improve. You never stop learning. You're always taking in new information. You're always doing amazing things. You gotta just strive forward and constantly focus on self-improvement. So I'd like to share a story where the roles were reversed. Earlier this year, I was at a program and there was this teacher I was talking to. She was in her 50s. The topic was about cassettes. And she used to tell me all kinds of stories about how, when she was younger, she used to buy cassettes all the time and she had several stereos and she knew how to, you know, keep them from getting tangled, and running them back with the pencil technique, that whole thing. But that was pretty much her combined knowledge over the course of 50 years. With a 30-year difference between us, a near 30-year difference between us, I had gained so much information on cassettes in the past year, what with the rise in popularity and the fact that I'm breaking into film production, I'm learning all types of audio recording, that I was able to tell her so much more that she never knew. With a 30-year gap between us, I was able to tell her things such as which models were the most commercially sold, Type 1 being ferrule and Type 2 being chrome, and how you can tell the difference between them. You see, ferrule was sold in black tape, and chrome tape is sold in brown. I was able to tell her that the Plax tape was the earliest notable compact cassette, the earliest and as well as the oldest portable cassette sold to the general public. It typically held 26 minutes of music, and it was available in the 1960s. I was able to tell her how the auto reverse on cassettes worked and what stereos were the best models, and go into deep detail like that. That was through 1 year of studying cassettes as a form of audio recording. As someone who broke into video production and wanted to learn as much about audio editing as he can. Also, cassettes have made a huge comeback. I figured it was the best move to make. And that's the thing you got to think about. There might be a 30-year gap between you and someone else, but you might know so much more of a subject matter that they were more associated with, that was more common from their point in time as compared to yours. And there's nothing wrong with that. We all have things that we excel at, we all have things that we are good at, and it's just a matter of taking time to decide where you're going, where you're heading, what interests do you have, how dedicated you are, how much focus you can put in. And in life, you'll have obstacles. You'll have time, you'll have energy, you'll have all kinds of things of that nature affecting your performance in academic success, of understanding and performance in any particular field, whether it be sports, the arts, academics, anything of the sort. So yeah, to the topic at hand, it's not the longevity that matters. It's not so much the distance as much as it is the journey, what got you here and what you're doing now. When you look at a lot of people, especially filmmakers, when they look back at some of their best work, they always tend to pick the most recent stuff, that being because of new technology that helped advance take the imagination and make it an even greater thing. With today's advanced technology and computer graphics and quantity and higher works, they're more focused on their most recent work, and it shows that no matter how old or how long they've been at it, they're still doing great work, and they're still doing work that they could really enjoy. And you listen to a lot of filmmakers doing interviews, and it's their most recent work with today's higher arrangement of options, cameramen, assistants, computer graphics, effects, and they're always saying that, this most recent film is probably like, the first time I felt like I had any real creative control, or it was the first time I felt like I was really doing something that I uh, could really be proud of, that I was giving to people, that was in my own hand, and that I had everything done in myself. And that's not uncommon. It really isn't, because as time goes on and you're still improving, you're still getting better, you admire more and more of your most recent work, because that's where a lot of the talent has come from. That's where a lot of the growth has come from. You're just growing and getting better, and you can really appreciate your work more by doing the work and not fixating on how long you've been doing it. To be honest, 13 years, uh, not some of my best videos have come out of this like 13th year, but there's been a lot of positives, and I can look back at some older videos and say, that there have been some good stuff, but it really got better in the present. It wasn't because of it was because of the effort. It wasn't because of I've just been doing this a long time. Because some people could do stuff for years and never really get any better. Look at some of the worst filmmakers of all time. Look at some of the worst animators of all time. Ed Wood or Sam Singer. I mean, those guys, their work never really got better, even though they were doing this work for a long time, or that they were pioneering work for a long time. It's just, it was the focus. So when it comes to having these feelings or emotions, it's best to think about more positive things for yourself. Think about things that you've done that are impressive, that you've achieved or accomplished so far in your life. Personally, I use things that have same value to other people. Uh, for example, I graduated high school around 18, which is good. I been a college student for over a year before turning 20, which is good. And just stuff that people can relate to, stuff that is ideal, stuff that people can understand. Think about how you can improve yourself, how you can improve your focus. Perhaps perhaps if you're trying to work and in a location where uh, moving yourself is an option, move yourself to a quieter, less distracting area. Perhaps if you're having trouble sleeping at night and it's causing you to lose focus, and it's messing with your attention and your energy and drive, you could try new routines that are healthier in your life to help you sleep better at night, so you're up in the day with more energy, more focused, and your eyes are more focused on the prize. You're more serious. You know what you're doing. You could also improve your diet. You could try an exercise routine. Do whatever it takes to really help you improve your daily habits. Because sometimes your habits and your daily routine does affect a lot of what you do, whether it's what you do with your free time or what you do during work and what you do after work. All that plays a major part in your ability to concentrate and improve yourself. And improving yourself is what's going to help you wean off these emotions. Is by this point your health is improved, you're happier, you're more focused. When you've been thinking a lot about your own personal achievements, and it's inspired you to do more, and you've done more, and your life is just improving, and you're happier, you're more content, you're just striving forward in life. When you hear or see other people's achievements and what they've done at any point in time, at this point you're more like, well, good for him, I'm happy for him. You don't have those feelings you did from the beginning. It's just more like, you're happy for them, you're glad that they are doing what they love, and you're happy where you are, you're doing what you love. We're all striving to be our best. It makes the world a better place. Those are the feelings and the content that you'll have after a while, once you've really improved your lifestyle and how you'll perceive things by those two major changes. Thinking about your own personal achievements and thinking more about how you can improve yourself. So I want to wrap up this video by reminding people that it's not the age, it's not how long you've been at it, it's just how focused and dedicated you are to something. No matter what it is. If you're a lawyer, if you're an engineer, if you're a musician, if you're a painter, if you're an athlete of some sort, all that matters is that you stay focused and dedicated and work hard. You strive forward. You focus. You don't fixate on everything that you're going to be doing and how you're going to do things out and the time that you got to take or give to the activity. You just simply do it. Whether you're a prodigy or a late bloomer to anything, you can excel just by the focus and by the passion and the dedication you have. That is all that matters. To those who have felt this way about themselves, uh, not envying so much, but rather just simply feeling bad that they weren't on the same level as a fellow peer, somebody slightly older or slightly younger, or even just the same age who might excel at you better than something by a lot, or in your opinion, you don't feel bad about it. You do what makes you happy. You're doing what makes you happy. You enjoy that activity and you're continuing to do better and you're not stopping. You're always striving forward. You know, that's what matters. And I hope that this video has been able to help you in some way receive some insight and help you uh, as some kind of reminder of basically, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'd like this to be a reflectance so that in memory you could look back on this and think, he's got something there. Maybe I can improve this. Maybe I can fixate less on the matter at hand and just be proud of where I am. I think that's about it. Um, it's been quite the emotional experience for me. It's actually, my stomach's in knots right now. I just hope that this has helped somebody out there because it's really helped me, and I was really happy to do this and really just pour out this level of raw emotion. But most importantly, I want to conclude this video by thanking you for taking time to view it.